Okay, I think it's good. All right, because on my screen, on the stream manager, it looked much different than the actual Twitch page. So I'm glad I chose that. Yeah. Okay. So, hi everyone. So this mic that I'm using is this, it's called DJI, and it comes in this little box. And actually, Flex, for a while, he's like, we need to get these DJI mics because I use them for work and they're really good. So last week I used this mic and it has a lapel attachment. So I tried to use that, but with this top. It sat in the middle of my neck and it looked odd. So this little thing is actually on the inside of my shirt, and this is like a little magnet. So there you go. There's your technical behind the scenes look at my microphone. But if you're wondering what this is, it is my microphone, and hopefully it sounds, if it is too muffled, or for some reason if you can hear my heartbeat or something weird like that, let me know so that I can change it, and I'll do a costume change and I'll go back to the lapel mic because I want to make sure it sounds good. But when I just listened to myself just now on Twitch, it seemed very quiet on my end compared to the music. And I also don't want you to have to hear me gulping or anything like that. If I drink some water, is it going to pick up the sound of the water traveling down my throat? I don't know. I really don't know anything about that mic. But today's topic for Just Chatting, I wanted to talk about conversation, because this is a thing that I see. I just have seen this huge decline in the way that people talk to each other. And so apart from being I think le French term is a femme de foyer. I think that's it, like femme de foyer, like a housewife. Apart from my main profession, I do, YouTube videos and game videos. I also do one-on-one private consultations with people that are looking to improve their communication skills. And you can actually go to my website, socialwsarah.com. I actually think that's the right site. Let me make sure really quickly. So yeah, it's socialwsarah.com. And so I've been doing that for a while. And for the past 3 years, and I've had a great number of clients from all over the world, all different ages. Actually, last week I had a meeting with my youngest client, and he was 12, and his mother contacted me, and she wanted me to meet with him because he had been having trouble in school, and she said he doesn't have any friends and he has difficulty communicating. So I met with him and her simultaneously, and it was a really, really sweet meeting. I mean, he's a really, really good kid, but I just feel so bad for kids today because it is a completely different type of environment than what I remember when I was his age. And I said, back when I was your age, I'm so grateful to have grown up in a time period without smartphones. And when we think about the decline in decorum and why are people so uncivil these days and these kind of questions, and we think back to, okay, well, what is the root cause of this? Is it like the internet? Is it smartphones? Is it social media? And I really actually think that it's probably smartphones and social media, like a combo of those, but having this tiny computer with you at all times. And, the problems caused by screen addiction. Actually, my brother-in-law was telling me that one of his friends can't sit through a TV show without being on his phone at the same time. And I just thought, that's so unfortunate because that's no way to engage with anything, right? That would be like if I was playing a video game, but I also had to have my phone plugged in with me because of this, reliance on it, or I'm not able to pay attention to something. It's not any good for your concentration. And as someone that has ADHD, and I get very distracted very easily, and, I'm already prone to disorganized thoughts and sort of daydreaming and losing my train of thought and whatnot. And I think that smartphones and just this always got to check, I got to see what's updated, that isn't any good for me. And thankfully, I know a lot of people have this doom scrolling addiction where they'll just sit there and they'll scroll for hours, And by the time you like, oh, I just spent 3 hours doom scrolling, just scrolling endlessly for that dopamine hit or whatever. I don't know enough about social media addiction to really talk about it, other than my own personal perspective and what my experiences has been and what I see. So I don't know the scientific foundation. I don't want to make any claims. This is just what I remember being told, is that the dopamine addiction, or the search for that next high, is something that is going to be very detrimental to children. And it's that whole idea behind loot boxes and video games and whatnot. So as someone who teaches people how to socialize and how to communicate better and how to build their confidence, it's so difficult in this day when so many people struggle with the people around them being addicted to social media or being addicted to their smartphone. It's hard for me to give someone advice because it's so reliant on the assumption that the other person that they're trying to talk to doesn't have one of these vices already. And so it's difficult. And I feel bad. A lot of the people who come to me are really, really nice, sweet people. There was only one client in which he had some behavioral issues, but that was one client. The rest of the people that I've worked with have just been very, very sweet, kind of shy, more on the reserved side. But unfortunately, when you are competing in this society with a bunch of people who would rather be on their smartphones, I could give you all the advice in the world. You could be as charismatic and as confident. You could be as bubbly and friendly as you could possibly be, and it's still not going to make a difference because the people in which you are trying to engage with have this issue, and nothing that you could do everything right, and it's still not going to change that. So that's just my own personal observation as someone who teaches people how to interact in a more successful way. And it makes me really sad because I'm already an extremely, extremely sentimental person. Like last week, you guys saw my record collection. I clearly feel at home in a different kind of, in an older time period. I love classic films so much. The 1960s, 1950s, just the whole idea of that kind of Americana and that society, I feel like that's my dream scenario, just having little cocktail parties and whatnot, having a neighborhood get together, and there is no smartphone. And I'm not one of those people where I have a smartphone right here. I will be using it in this video because I wanted to read something from it. I'm definitely not that sort of curmudgeon against technology and whatnot, but I just am also simultaneously, I try myself to be aware that I'm not falling prey to what I see happening to a lot of other people. So that's why the conversation for this topic today was what's happening to our communication? What has happened to the way in which we talk to each other? So personal anecdote, last week I was in a group chat on Instagram. It was a DM Instagram group chat, and one of the people sent a link to, hi Neurotic, I'm doing very well, thank you, it's good to see you. Enjoy my talk today. School, classes in session. So someone in this Instagram DM thread had sent a post, and it was someone else's post. There was no extra, they hadn't made a comment about it. They just sent a copy of the post, as you can do. You can just share a story. So they shared a story, and I responded to the text that was on the story with my own words, and I typed it out. I typed out this little paragraph that was basically just adding on to the sentiment that was in this story. And he shot back, well, yeah, duh. That's why I sent what I sent, of course. And I was so turned off by that. I thought, you know, that's just such a rude way to respond to me taking the time to comment on your story that you sent without any kind of addition to it. You didn't change it in any way. You didn't tell me what your input was. How should I have assumed what you thought about this story? I don't know what your point of view is. So me expressing what I thought, which was agreeing with it, was meant, of course I was. That's why well, how would I know that? And this was I just thought, this is so typical now, isn't it? And then I thought, there's this other group DM chat that I was a part of, and they will constantly do this. They'll share a story, but they won't add any kind of commentary to it whatsoever. So I'm just sitting there kind of, and I will try to interact in a way where I will type out a message, because that, again, this is something that I teach people how to do. When you talk to someone, you engage, you share some sort of, you share an opinion or, just a comment or something. So I'm following my own advice about how to properly converse with someone and kind of attempt a conversation. And I'll just get back like an emoji response or something. I won't get it back any kind of, feedback. And it just makes me, I don't understand why this has become the norm, because it is so counterintuitive to actually just having a meaningful discussion. And so this is something that I don't know. I just wanted to talk about, because it's just a very frustrating phenomenon for me to witness. And then there's this other problem of like debate culture as well, which I find just really kind of gross and toxic, because you have people. So on Reddit, there was these clips going around of this, I don't want to call it a debate, because it seemed so poorly handled. And both of the participants were just, there was no moderator, there was no respect for opinions. But this is a problem that you have when you have people who are in no way an authority on what they're talking about, but there's this whole like gotcha culture. And this is on Twitch as well. Like, people will watch a video and then try and, for that moment, like, gotcha, got the other person. And I don't see the appeal in that whatsoever, because how is that fun? How is that fun to see, just two people arguing without any kind of, what's it called? Without any kind of a format to it? I really don't see the appeal with that. It's kind of just like the verbal version of the MMA or something. And so that's another thing that I think has really gone to the wayside, is just the way that people want to see other people interact with each other. There's no standard of, I'd like to listen to two professionals. And the way in which we've spoken also has declined. And again, if you look back, you don't even have to go back to like the 1960s. I was looking at a clip of a couple of past presidential candidates from just, like 8-10 years ago. And the way in which people speak has definitely declined, and it seems to be the norm, which just makes me very sad and disappointed. I don't want that to become the norm. So I don't really think, though, there is this wide desire for anything to really change. I kind of feel like I'm on the fringe here. So, oh well, I've always been that way. I've always been on the fringe, but I wanted to, I got this book. I think I got this book because I saw it on Mrs. Maisel, which I love that show. Again, takes place in the 1960s. It's called Etiquette for Young Moderns, and it's by Gay Head, which was a pseudonym for these sort of etiquette writers that wrote in a home journal, and they had different published books and whatnot. But I wanted to read some of this because I was looking through here, and I just think the advice for, at the time that this was written, I think, when was this? 1954. So 1954 advice is still very relevant today, but just kind of highlighting how much things have changed, sadly. Okay, I'm going to pause to read your comment, narrative. People are absolutely terrible at communication, and people are getting so much worse with communication. I've been getting ghosted for no reason, and ghosting is normalized now. Either people are talking at each other or ignoring each other, nothing in between. That is so sad. Like, that kind of makes me, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little, it's so frustrating because that's exactly like what I was talking about. So when I work with my clients, I could teach you, I teach them, like, here's all the steps to do, right? I'll take myself, for example. I'll do everything the right way, but it's still not enough because of the people that I'm at the other end kind of battling for their attention. And it just, it's awful. It's so frustrating. And I can't imagine, so I'm one of those, I know there's like, they classify extroverts, introverts, and now they're saying there's like a third, amnivert or omnivert. I can't remember. It's like in the middle. I don't necessarily shove people into categories because everything is, some days I might feel like super outgoing and wanting to talk to people, and the other days I don't want to. There's no reason to classify anyone, and that's the category you have to stick in. I would say personality-wise, though, I'm an extremely like bubbly, friendly person. I like to be happy, but I also really enjoy my time to myself and my alone time. And I'm so thankful for that because I can't imagine if I was one of those people that always wanted to go out and be around people. In my friend group, I have always been the planner or the organizer. And if not for me, nothing would happen. No one would get together. And like you said, the whole ghosting thing is normalized. And that's so frustrating because this is no way in which you can build friendships and relationships. Even if you do everything correctly, it's just so normalized to disregard somebody. And I hate that. And I hate the excuse that, oh, don't worry, you don't owe anyone an explanation. If you want to say that, you don't owe anyone. That's such an unhealthy way to act. It's not that I have to tell you, oh, I can't go out tonight, I'm having a severe allergy attack. In which, if we had plans and I was having a severe allergy attack, I would tell you, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm having the worst allergies right now. Can we please reschedule? Would love to try for another night. But I don't feel like it. Or I've had people cancel, well, my social battery is low, I don't feel like going out. Which, if you don't feel like going out, then I'd rather you tell me. That way I don't have to spend time around you when you're utterly just miserable. But I don't like this idea that we don't owe any explanation to anybody. You don't owe anyone anything. It's not all about us, right? The way in which we converse with people, conversation and interactions, and this is something that I always say, these are how a good conversation is about how the other person feels, right? Yes, you it's about two people speaking, but ultimately when I say like a good, successful interaction, it's the other person walks away and felt good about that exchange, right? And would want to talk to you more or whatnot. Doesn't feel frustrated, doesn't feel like they're pulling teeth. But here's my thing. How are people supposed to learn how to interact? And I know everyone's like, oh, COVID changed everything. If COVID seriously changed everything, like within a year, and you weren't able to recover from that, I don't know if that's accurate. I mean, that's kind of crazy to me. I would say maybe you're misremembering how things used to be before COVID, because I still remember plenty of times in which I was the sole planner and I would, get canceled on or whatnot, even though I'd make accommodations and not do the whole, hey, let's get together sometime soon. I always say suggest a firm place, because people don't like choices, or, they don't like just the vagueness of let's get together sometime. Like, hey, what are you doing on this Saturday? Any of these dates available? Do you want to go out to dinner at this location? I give them an option that they can either say yes or no to. But I do get frustrated when it's not reciprocated. And so therefore, that's my long way of saying I am so glad I'm able to exist on my own without having to rely on company of other people, because I would just be so disappointed all the time. Hi, RCV. Oi. So yeah, I want to read a passage from this little book, and it's a tiny little handbook about conversation, because I thought it was just very, where was it? Okay, it's very short. But I just really loved how they put this together. Okay, so, and yet we are at the peak of the loneliness crisis. People don't take responsibility for behaving rudely or hurting others because they don't want to be inconvenienced in any way. They only want to be validated. Yes, we are at the peak of a loneliness crisis, and they've said it's an epidemic. Like, I think the actual Department of Health, or the NIH, National Institute of Health, they said that it was an actual epidemic affecting, countless number of people. And there is some, I've read, so this whole idea of the third place, which is it's a social setting that isn't your home, it's not work, it's not school. It's like a third location where you could get together and meet people. So, like a bowling alley or a dinner club or a dance hall, things like that decades ago. The mall even, the mall was the third location. And so without these sort of places, where do people go? Where are you supposed to meet people? And by taking away these areas, how are we supposed to go socialize with people? And I hate, as an adult, everyone, just go to the bar. That can't be any kind of, the sport club. Thank you, RCV. That was like another place to go. But you can't just go. Look, I don't drink, not because of religious reasons or anything like that, just because I'm actually allergic to alcohol. But a problem with telling people to go to the bar and meet people. Do you really want to get off on the start with someone who is inebriated, and you're not really hanging out with someone that is sober because you're getting like an altered version? If I drink, I get very, very ditzy, like very, very goofy and silly. And if you met me in that state, you might think, oh, wow, gosh, she's like super, super funny. But then if you were to meet me sober, you think, wow, she is totally different. Do you want that experience with someone? No. So we can't just throw out, go to the bar. I hate that suggestion as an adult. Anyway, let me read the section here. Topics of conversation are as varied as people themselves, but you don't find things to talk about by sitting at home and twiddling your thumbs. You find them by going out alertly, with your eyes and ears and mind open. You stop, look, and listen in stores and restaurants, on buses and trolleys, in school and out. You read magazine articles on sports and science, as well as fashion and movie stars, if you're a girl. Articles on personalities in the news and new developments in fabrics and home appliances, as well as sports and science, if you're a boy. And aside, this was written for teenagers at the time. I would say like maybe more affluent, upper middle class, well, I shouldn't even say upper, no matter what class, because I just think this was good advice. But that was probably their target audience, was like, you know, high school students. So that's the whole if you're a boy, if you're a girl thing. Anyway, you read newspapers and discover that in addition to the comic section, sports and society pages, there are editorials, political columns, and letters to the editor. You listen to the radio and watch TV and realize that comedy and disc jockey programs have competition in the form of good dramatic programs, stimulating discussion programs, news commentators, and interviews. You go to the library, and instead of heading straight for the mystery and adventure sections, you browse around and find there are also books of short stories, plays, and essays, biographies, and travel books. You absorb all of these things, the trivial as well as the important. And then, when the conversation bogs down, you lift it up with, I read the most exasperating letter in the news today. It was from a man who insisted that all teenagers are reckless drivers. Have you been in the Bullard's department store recently? They're having an exhibit of high school art, and there's one watercolor painting of a picnic that's most amusing. I stopped by the Sugar Bowl yesterday and had a new dish called a low-calorie sundae. Guess what was in it? While I was in the library last night, I picked up a book on handwriting. I'm almost tempted to take up handwriting analysis as a hobby. Here, let me see if I can read your handwriting. Have you seen the new movie? I think it's likely to be my favorite film of the year. What's yours? Certainly none of these suggestions will electrify your companion, but they're all conversational leads, and the chances are that they'll lead somewhere rather than coming to a dead end. So I just think that was such a, that's really, really good advice, right? That's kind of what I tell my clients is, keep up with things that you're able to talk about, because you just don't want the conversation being, oh, what's the weather like? Oh, how are you doing? Things that go to a dead end. But the problem today is because of the very, very adversarial way in which we are taught to be, as set by the president, of the figureheads of our country and the media, and the way in which we are so obviously being manipulated by the algorithm and the way that we're advertised to, and the feed, and the way that Instagram pushes stories to you. How are you supposed to combat all of that when it's happening and you're not really aware of the ways in which you are being influenced to act? That's a huge, huge problem. And I think it's really at the root of why we are so unable to have conversations nicely anymore without any kind, there's no precedent for, let's polite society. There is no more polite society. Everything has to be so, it's just so combative, and I'm really tired of seeing it, and it absolutely influences me as well. I feel and again, with the way in which we are, hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm streaming.
Got it.
Anyway. Arsenic. Hi, Arsenic. Evening, chop. I saw this week that YouTube also pushes you away from politics if you watch too much on shorts, which is not fixing the problem. It kind of hides politics. Really? If you watch too many shorts, it pushes you away from politics? That's interesting. I wonder what the connection there is. Because, YouTube is all about, keeping you glued to the platform. So that's interesting, because I feel like a lot of people are more so interested in politics casually, in a way in which they don't really understand deeply, but it's delivered to us and says this in such this, they're so trying to just make light of it, right? It's become a very amusing thing, and I don't think politics is funny. And it used to be, even in this book, I'm sure I've read through this book once, but there was a section in here about the tabooness of politics and religion and whatnot. Politics used to be something you didn't want to talk about at the dinner. Let's not bring politics up. But now it's like, my family, I've had to request ahead of time, hey, can we not talk about politics? Can we just, when we get together for dinner, can we not talk about that? Because it gets so heated. And it used to be, you should not talk about this because it was very rude. And it's always been this way. I saw Norman Rockwell painting. This is one of the, reasons I wish I had something to show you. If I was streaming in front of a screen, I could show you this painting. It's this Norman Rockwell painting of this couple over breakfast, and the husband and the wife are screaming at each other because he's holding a Republican candidate's flyer and she's holding a Democrat candidate's, and they're kind of in the middle of this fight. Politics has always been a heated issue, and that's why it's always been rude to bring it up. But now, I don't think there's any, no one says that, right? No one says, hey, let's not talk about politics. Everyone wants to get together to talk about it. But you have a bunch of people who are ill-informed about it or don't know enough, who probably couldn't even tell you who all their state representatives is. What district do you live in? They don't know sort of foundational things, but they want to still engage as if they are an authority on it, or they know enough about it. And I think that's like a huge problem with political discussions today, is it's not taken seriously, and it is treated like a team sport. And of course, social media, the news, this is the way in which they are pitting us against each other. And it really sucks, because I think there's this precedent now of like, actually, I went out to a concert. I have things to say about that concert, by the way. So we were at a concert together, my best friend, and I told her I wanted to introduce her to someone that I had met, I thought she'd get along with, and she said, has she been vetted? As in, do we align politically? And I laughed because that's kind of a sad thing to have to say now is, oh, wait, what are our views before we get to know each other? Because of how hostile things have become. And it's super, super unfortunate. And I don't know how to, I don't know. It's sad that this has become the baseline for how we converse with people. I don't know. Like I said, I am very, very sentimental about times gone by, but I'm very nostalgic, and I hate to say this because I feel like every generation says this. So I grew up during the 90s, right? I'm a 90s kid. I got to experience the golden years before smartphones, and I really, really do think they were golden years. Now, everyone, for the most part, thinks fondly of their childhood. I'm sure for my people who were kids of the 80s, they'll say the same thing. Oh, I loved my childhood. Everyone is very nostalgic for their childhood as a basis. That's just a thing. But I just remember objectively things being better than they are for kids today. Even the media that's for kids today. So I have a niece and a nephew, and when I've gone, I've taken care of her, and she wants to watch shows on TV. She wants to watch the Teletubbies or Blippi or what's some of the other Cocomelon. And I don't know if any of you guys have kids out there, but these shows are so, it's just fluff. It's just like colorful fluff, but there's not really any substance. And yes, she is a toddler, but kids media, I just really don't think there's like a lot of good media for children that's targeted toward them. Oh, Miss Rachel, that's another one. She loves Miss Rachel, but I hate watching this stuff with her because it's just so mindless. And yes, it is for a toddler, but where's the Mr. Rogers equivalent for kids today? Where's that kind of effort to make engaging media for kids? And growing up, I had like Reading Rainbow, Bill Nye the Science Guy, PBS, even the cartoons so Hey Arnold was one of my favorite cartoons. I actually want to do like a recap revisiting that cartoon because I feel like that cartoon is just so incredibly, it's like perfect. It was the most perfect cartoon. I loved it growing up. But kids today, they don't have that, right? So you do have a bunch of media that's targeted towards like toddlers, like Miss Rachel, Teletubbies, Cocomelon, whatever. But where is the media that's like for older kids? And I just feel like they get smartphones so early. You have a 10-year-old with a smartphone and they're sending text messages and stuff like that. Not really, their brains aren't even fully formed. Why do they have a phone, even if it's put on child protection mode? So I don't know how kids are supposed to go through their childhood and exist and turn into adults today. Where do they learn? Where do they learn these skills, like how to talk to other people, how to write? There's a whole section in this little book about writing. How to address letters and salutations, and it's just okay. I'm just going to read a snippet. This is an example of a well-written letter. Okay, I'm just going to read the first paragraph. This is just a checking in letter. Dear Fred, imagine spending 2 weeks at home with a good record player and a radio, not to mention having breakfast in bed and people waiting on you all the time, all with the fan mail you're getting. You probably think you're a Hollywood star. Seriously, Fred, we miss you and we're all hoping for your speedy recovery. When you're feeling fit again, we're going to organize an express service to your house to bring you daily assignments, library books, and the like. In the meantime, several of us are trying to take complete class notes so we can help catch you up. Get well soon. Okay, so that was a little sympathy. Can you imagine a 15-year-old today typing something like that in a text message, what that might look like? And this is a thing too, where if I talk, when people talk longingly about the past or about how things used to be, some of the knee-jerk reactions can be, oh, times have changed. Why do you want to go back to that time period? Blah, 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 blah. Which I also think is very unfortunate. We can't talk about how times have changed without some people getting really, really offended and upset by it. Let me take a moment to catch up with the comments. News media in modern times has heightened people's anxiety about meeting anyone, anywhere, including the most safest places, so people don't get practice meeting each other and assume everyone is hostile. So passive-aggressive or hyper-aggressive communication is normalized online and no one knows how to talk to each other. That's another thing too. You've brought up a good point about when we hear these stories about these freak encounters or someone turning out to be really creepy or scary, people are like, oh, that's enough internet for me. Or like you said, it does make them afraid to go out and meet people. I have the same fear in a different way because I love true crime. And so I'm always very hyper aware. Not that I ever go out thinking, oh, I'm going to get kidnapped any second. No, but I'm just very aware. I don't go anywhere where there's not a CCTV camera somewhere, in public or whatnot. But yeah, that is another bad aspect is we hear all these stories, we see things, and it does make people afraid to go out because they have these, and it's not even, that's not even a realistic fear, right? That's just something you're seeing like a freak story and then applying it to every single person around you. It's super unfortunate. I don't know how we combat this. I really don't. I'm not a professional in this. Everything that I've learned about what I tell my clients and whatnot is through my own professional experience. I worked in a law firm for nearly a decade. And then, I've been online forever. I've been like a community moderator, manager, just kind of being like the lead person in my group in several different iterations of my online groups for the past like nearly 20 years. So all of the experience I have is completely anecdotal, but thankfully, I've never had a problem. Well, no, actually, I will say I was very, very shy, like very, very shy. And I never learned how to speak to people. I mean, other than being very polite and whatnot. My parents taught me and my brother I mean, I was raised Christian. I was raised in a very strict Christian household in which honor thy father and thy mother, respect thou elders. You know, all of that was very ingrained in me. So I've always been an extremely, extremely respectful person, especially to elders. I was very beloved in school. I was, even though I liked to, you know, get my classmates to laugh and stuff like that behind, you know, the scenes a little bit. I was always, my teachers loved me. All my teachers loved me because I was just a really, really, the bar, I guess maybe the bar for interaction was so low. That's another thing too, just the way that kids treat teachers today. I have heard horror stories. It's so sad. And I don't want this to be a sort of doomer stream where we just talk about everything that's wrong in the world. I want to specifically kind of narrow it down to conversation. But all of this is affected, right? All of this is kind of tied to it. Arsenic said, I recall hearing for 6 months before Finding Nemo came out, the Disney Channel had a 30-second mid-show section on fish. This is mindless manipulation to get them interested into a topic for the cinema tickets, but now it's a lot of politics, morals, etc. The messages being pushed have shifted for sure. Yeah, that's really troubling too, because kids' brains are like sponges, right? In fact, some of my strongest memories are from my childhood. And I just remember the most, looking back on it, it's so inane. It's nothing that, you know, I wish I could remember some of the historical things I learned, some of the academic things, but I just remember experiences I'd have and classmates and whatnot. But, and I think that's another reason why, looking back, I feel so nostalgic for that time period, was because I remember how much I enjoyed it. And just the people around me too, you know, it makes me so sad. And sometimes I'll go through these bouts of just like melancholy and really just kind of sad nostalgia. I'll think about, like, I remember going to the mall when I was in high school. My friend would drive, and I remember Barney's Coffee. I remember walking around. There were no smartphones, and we'd run into people we knew and whatnot. It's just so different. Even looking back, like if you look at the movie, okay, The Breakfast Club. I don't really like this movie, by the way, but I'm just using an example of like the way the depiction of high school students, or if you even look at, forget fictional, if you actually look at actual clips from that time period, there was just this more, I don't know, everyone seemed so much more, you know, nice. Even the bullies, when you think back to like 1990s, the way that they portray bullying, like, what's up, Four Eyes? Yeah, I'm gonna chase you home, give you a wedgie. It was all it was so stereotypically, you know, you had this jock and he'd bully the nerdy kid in class and whatnot, but bullying today is really just, I mean, super, super aggressive and vicious. And I can't imagine being a kid today on the receiving end of what the kind of bullying they get in, and it's just, it makes me so sad. And I feel like if I were a parent, I would not, I would be one of those people who's like, okay, you're getting homeschooled and you're never leaving the threshold of this house. I will protect you in bubble wrap. It just makes me so sad, you know, for kids today. Narratic says, my hairstylist and I have opposing political views and we get along extremely well. It helps that we are both millennials in our late 30s. Hey, fellow millennial, late 30s. Yeah, why do millennials in their late 30s? Why do we have it going on? Well, I shouldn't say that because I do know a lot of millennials in the 30s, and a lot of them suck. Yeah. So Narratic, you should feel glad that you are one of the good ones out there. Bishop, certainly hitting a lot different than the text messages I receive. Boy, are you doing anything to receive text messages? Like, you know, are you aggravating the person on the other end of the phone? The strict Christian culture seems to be mostly an American thing these days. Yeah, definitely. I really don't think like Europeans have to deal with the sort of stuff that, I don't know how it is today, but growing up as a kid, like having that really strict, overbearing Christian household. And then later kind of realizing like, oh, yeah, we definitely kind of borderline were in a cult, just because of the things looking back. I'm like, yeah, that was not normal. But it did make me very, very polite to my elders. And old people love me, especially. Like, they freaking love me. And I'm glad for that, too. But yeah, so I also want to read another passage from Etiquette about conversation, and this specifically about what I kind of said earlier about debate culture, because I feel like, I don't know why debate culture has become as popular as it is. I was watching a, hello?
Hello.
Hi, want to come say hello?
Sure.
Okay. Flex is going to come say hello. I'm just talking about how poorly we all speak today, together. Hello.
Hello.
Please ignore his basketball shorts. Yeah.
Hello. I speak poorly today.
You want to say that?
I speak real poor like.
No, I'm not speaking. The way in which we speak, the way in which we converse, it sucks.
It's not good. We don't know how to use words good no more.
Actually, okay. Okay, really quickly. We had a discussion on my YouTube channel about a video game. We had a discussion, and I called it a debate because it was a debate. It was a friendly conversation
Back
about.
and forth. Yeah.
And I got so many negative comments about, oh, you two can't talk to each other. I can't watch this. You all are screaming over each other. And if you go look at that video, it's us talking to each other.
Having a conversation.
It's just us talking.
Yeah.
There's no insulting. There's no putting each other down. There's no anything. It's literally just us talking.
Back and forth.
And people were telling me to get divorced. And I said, are you seriously? Can you imagine how that would look? We're getting divorced over clear
Because
and
we
obscure.
talk to each other.
Because we talk to each other.
That's insane.
But they didn't like the way in which we spoke to each other.
That's wild. That's absolutely wild. People
just,
need to go outside and touch grass.
They do.
Yeah.
But that's really, really telling as to what people are okay with. I'm not okay with that.
No. I need to go get some water and get back to work.
Okay, got it.
Good to see you all.
Yes. We will be streaming tonight, by the way. We're going to do our live show. Oh, yeah, this is Miss Penny. Oh, Miss Penny, come here. Oh. Hi, Miss Penny. Yeah, this is my tiny little bear cub. Anyway, yeah, we're going to do our live show tonight where we talk about games, movies, and whatnot. But I was just kind of shocked at the reception. I thought, wow, people are so uncomfortable with a conversation in this way. So it wasn't even like the kind of debate that I see today, though, these like weird takedown videos and whatnot. And I thought, huh? This is like nothing compared to the sort of stuff that makes people really popular. But there was someone on Twitch who, he had made a video and some Twitch streamers watched this video for the sole purpose of taking views away from his channel. And if you know who I'm talking about, then you know who I'm talking about. But so these Twitch streamers wanted to take views away from his channel, so they sat there silently watching his video so that people could watch his video without giving him views. And that's like the state. That's the state of things today. How is that, I don't know, how is that enjoyable? Just watching someone watch someone else silently, not engage with something, I don't know. I do really also dislike when you have any kind of criticism about the way that mainstream streaming is or whatnot. Everyone, oh, you just think you're so much better than anyone else. Someone said we were very lofty. Very lofty for what? This is how low the bar has been set for me, is that I don't want to watch, I don't want to see the things that are getting popular, people, reveling in takedowns and whatnot and smackdowns, and it's just awful. Logic Fan says it's an opportunity to be a role model and show how unswayed you are by the wind. Oh, in reference to what? Oh, staying grounded is important. Okay, yes, I agree. Varialev says, Kite's dressed up, flashy, and in comes Flex with a Hawaiian shirt. Yeah, so I'm just wearing like a black top and some white linen pants. Outfit of the day. But yeah, I was thinking I wanted to do like a very Parisian kind of thing today. Eyeliner, lipstick. Keep it very simple. Yes, anyway, I want to talk more about, I want to read this other section in here about, where is it? Oh, about when things are too heated. Okay. Oh, I do actually really love this advice. There's a bunch of what not to do in here. And one of them is telling embarrassing jokes. Don't tell jokes that might offend other people. And that means not only off-color jokes, but dialect jokes and others that make fun of certain races, nationalities, or groups of people. Put yourself in the other fellow's shoes. And again, this was written in 1954. And this is something that when people think of, when we have criticisms of the way that things are today, and people think, oh, I really wish things were how they used to be. People never used to act like this. This is an example, you know, don't tell off-color jokes. Don't make fun of people's dialect, their certain races, nationalities, or groups of people. Put yourself in the other fellow's shoes. How is that bad advice? Like, I do hate this stigma that people seem to have. They have this narrative that, oh, everything was just so much worse and, you know, so restrictive. No, I think that definitely things have gotten a lot more worse. But the main goal was never to, you know, be haughty or be holier than thou or whatnot. It was just kind of just being polite as a base level. Oh, thank you. Lukeski says, looks good. Oh, my black top? Thank you. Or I don't know what that's in reference to, but I appreciate that. Narratic says, I hope the things you have brought to chat's attention becomes an ongoing conversation, because it's absolutely important for everyone to address poor communication, whether it's ghosting or talking incredibly disrespectful to each other. Yeah, and that's, again, something that unfortunately, is very difficult to combat when the people around you are not on the same page. You can be as good of a conversation partner, but it all goes out the window if you're talking to a jerk. And it really, really unfortunate that there isn't, I don't know. I don't know what the remedy to it is. I really, really do not. And if you were to even say something kind of like, hey, I'm being respectful, can't you show me the same level of decency? No, I don't think it's possible. Okay, so I want to, where is it? There's something in here about arguing. Oh, okay, here it is. I like this. No, where is it? There's a section. Oh, here it is. Okay. Okay, this is a section about arguing. I wanted to, let's try this to see if it works for us the next time we have an argument. At group gatherings among close friends, there's nothing more fun than discussions or even arguments. But don't make rash statements. You can't drive home a point unless you know facts. Steer clear of what can become unpleasant quarreling. Some of the danger signs are raised voices, name-calling, interrupting the person who's speaking, making personal rather than factual remarks. When those signals start flashing, it's sensible to revert to nonsense. Phew, settling the fate of the world is tough work. Let's take a break and get some dance music on the radio. Look, we're getting nothing out of this except hoarse voices. Anyone want to play around a fast and silent game of ping pong? That's such a cute way to deflect. But the warning signs are here. Raised voices, name calling, interrupting the other person who's speaking, making personal rather than factual remarks. Now, we see figureheads speaking this way. That's very, very representative of how we see individuals who should know better handle themselves. And so when we don't have any examples, that is what the standard has become, because we see it at the highest level of office or whatnot. how are we supposed to be better? And it's so my mom called me last week. She's like, oh, I liked your stream where you talked about records. I don't know if she watched the entire thing. If you do, hi, Mom. But something that is frustrating to me as the child of parents is I feel like I am held to a higher standard than even someone in a much higher position than I am is held, right? That we make excuses for people at whatever high position they hold, whatever high office they hold. Oh, that's just how they are. But we hold each other to this impossible microscopic, we need to start holding people responsible in the very, very utmost positions. We shouldn't have CEOs and figureheads and leaders engaging in this way, raised voices, name calling, personal rather than factual. We shouldn't have that. If we want to hold each other to this high standard, we really have to start doing it across the board. I think we as a society have to want better representation, right? We shouldn't settle for something so awful. And so that is my section on that. I don't know what section that was. But anyway, Bishop says, I'm going to suggest dance music next time and I'll let you know how it goes. Yeah, you should, actually. I think suggesting dance music at the height, can you imagine during like some of these debates, the moderator just says, hey, everyone's getting too crazy. Let's just put on some dance music. By the way, I went to the record store yesterday and I got a record of, it was like, I think it was like radio and supermarket jingles from the 1960s to dance to. And so I'm very excited to try that. I want to do another record stream. That was so much fun. But yeah, so what was I saying? I can't remember. This is my little Uzumaki cup from Jinji Ito, by the way, which I bought at a little fair. Yeah, so that was a conversation. Now, I want to, this is something that's kind of related to it because I feel like when you talk about wanting, when you have different standards or you have higher standards, a lot of people dismiss you as being a prude or they dismiss you as being snobby or stuck up. And I've always been, I have this effect where people automatically think I'm snobby or stuck up. I once, actually, this is so funny, I was working with someone on YouTube and they were a married man and he spoke so highly of his wife and I thought, oh, this guy seems really nice and safe, right? There's not going to be any weird parasocial stuff. And I said, it'd be great if, I could say hi to your wife and, maybe the four of us, we could have a little spouse party day or something like that. And he said, my wife doesn't like you. And she thinks you're annoying. She thinks you're a girly girl. She has no interest in talking to you. And I was just so taken aback and offended that someone could make that kind of judgment about me without knowing anything about me. And after that, I was like, whew, okay, well, well. And I don't know why I have this, I don't know. I don't know why I give off that kind of vibe because I'm like the most, I love talking to people. I love talking to people. I have no problem talking to people. I will find something for us to talk about, gosh darn it. This is what I teach people to do. And so, yeah, I was very offended by that. But this is like a thing. This is a way that people perceive me, some of my friends. I don't know well. Oh, hi, Kojima from Norway. Oh, Norway, wow. You're like halfway around the world. I'm all the way in Florida. Arsenic says, when did people start disliking being uncomfortable to the smallest degree? Yeah, I know, yeah. Why? I don't understand. Like, you can't put yourself in a position that you have to say hi to someone that makes you uncomfortable for whatever reason. I don't know. But so I've had this, like, and this is something that's been told to me, is like, I either come off as a snob or, very intimidating. I also get like people are very intimidated by me, and I don't know why. Someone says because I have dark hair. I think I just have a very direct personality. The eye contact, and I don't know, I make people uncomfortable. But another thing, so I was talking, and this goes back to conversation. This is all going back to conversation. I was out at dinner with some friends, and we were talking about books, and I said, oh, I follow someone on Instagram, and she recommended this book, and I was thinking about picking it up because she said it was very life-changing, and immediately to the girls at the table, they were like, nope, 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 not for you, nope, not for you. It's way too much for you. It's too spicy for you. And I've watched Outlander. If you don't know what Outlander is, I've watched Game of Thrones. I mean, shows today, HBO, that's the whole thing. Like, whoa, HBO, okay, we get it. The nudity. So I'm not a prude by any means, but they had this perception of me. They're like, no, you're way too stuck up, way too much of a prude. I said, I'm not. I want to read this book. She said it was really good. What's the problem? Nope. She says, you should go into it. You shouldn't read that book. And I've never, ever made any kind of morality judgment. I am not like that, okay? I might have very high standards for myself, but I have never, how ghoulish. I've never clutched my pearls, okay? I've never done that. I've never clutched my pearls about anything. I have very strong opinions, but I've never clutched my pearls about anything. Except maybe the front page of Twitch. I will say that was a recent pearl clutching. That was more of a, oh my, what am I watching? It's like 1 p.m. EST, and what is this? Because it was just so different. But it was fun. I was like, not interested. I did that a few times and went away. Now all I have is like Rocket League that shows up, and I don't even watch Rocket League. Anyway, so back to this book. So this is the book, by the way. It's Quicksilver. This was the book that someone I follow. She said it was like very life-changing. And you can tell this is how far I finished. I got to, and I lost interest in it. But I will say, I did feel the spicy scenes in this book, I felt were laughable. It was so funny to me. It was not at all, I was not clutching my pearls. It was not too extreme. It's just words on a page, right? But they were making such a big deal. I can't believe you got through that book. I was laughing the whole time thinking, like, why do I give off this vibe? I don't know. Yeah, so I just, I thought this book was very boring. I hate to say that. But this book was very popular. Like, it was sold out in the bookstore. I thought, oh, this is a really great fantasy. You can see how this is no epic great fantasy. It had a bunch of plot holes that didn't go anywhere and things that they didn't get back to, so I lost interest in it. And I used to be I would go through books. I loved reading. English was my favorite class in school because I loved the discussion aspect of it. I loved just the part in which we came to school the next day after having read the assigned chapters and talked about it. I loved that. And again, my teachers loved me because I always sat in the front row, to the detriment of, they were like, someone other than Sarah, would you like to? It was that kind of thing, because I just loved discussion. In fact, I was thinking it would be really cool if if I could do a thing where maybe once a week we read a book, or we read a section of a book or a chapter of a book, and we talk about it. Either I read it for you, or we read it and then we come together and we talk about it. I thought that'd be cool, like a little stream book club. But as I've gotten older, so I used to read nothing but fiction, and then I kind of stopped reading altogether. For years, I stopped reading, and I listened to podcasts and whatnot, but I feel that when I listen to a book like an audiobook, I don't retain it at all. I've listened to a few audiobooks and I just haven't been able to retain it. And so I do prefer reading, and I do prefer physical copies of books. I don't have an e-reader because I don't know, there's something, I like being able to hold a book. But so when I did get back into reading, I read mainly nonfiction, and that was something I'd always loved fiction. So I got back into reading nonfiction, and I think I got really spoiled with the quality of the writing and the research and the intent and the choosiness of the words and whatnot, and it was just so engaging. One of the most engaging, exciting nonfiction books I read recently. I'm really bad with authors' names, but it's called The Wager. It's about a shipwreck, and it was so cinematic. I was reading the book like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. But this is the last nonfiction I read a couple months ago before the one that I'm reading now, which is a biography on Lucille Ball. But, just comparing the writing in a nonfiction book to a mainstream, and I'm not dumping on this book, I just have to use it as an example because it's very popular. It's like night and day. It's night and day. One is very thoughtfully written, and the other is just kind of fluff. And there's really no discussion element to be had. We were supposed to read this book together and talk about it, and there was nothing to talk about. They literally just made jokes about the sex scenes in the book, because that was kind of it. There's nothing really of substance to talk about. And I don't know, how is reading books meant to be a conversation takeoff point when very popular mainstream books today are just kind of fluff? I don't know. I don't know what the remedy for it is. So Arsenic and I we have this idea, or that Arsenic started. It's a book club, but we just meet and we just talk about what we're currently reading. And I really like that. That's such a great, I really, really like that format, because it's not like everyone has to get stuck reading a book they don't like or whatnot, but we can all kind of talk about it. And now we did read some of the same books together. And one thing that I don't like when you are in a book club or you're all reading the same book is if someone comes in and I hated that book. And that's kind of their opening for the conversation, because that's not really any kind, well, what didn't you like about it? Everything? I just thought it sucked. Okay. You see how that's a dead end to a conversation? How are you supposed to go anywhere with that? I can dislike a book without, it's just like this book. I didn't necessarily like this book. I wouldn't say I hated it. I didn't enjoy it. I just didn't feel it was very well written, in which case I have plenty of examples as to why. The plot holes that they don't close out, and some of the contradictions in the book. So I have reasons in which I didn't finish it, but I hated it, thought it was trash. It's just, I don't know. Again, the quality in conversation is lacking. High Block Rocker. Oh, yes, David Gran, he wrote The Wager. Oh, The Wager is so good. It was just such a fantastic book. But yeah, I really like nonfiction books today. But I forget why I brought these up. When I was planning the stream, I had a list of things I wanted to talk about. I think I think I brought these two books in as an example of why it's difficult, some of the things that make it difficult for me to have conversation today. But so this girls group, book chat group that I'm in, this DM thread on Instagram, it's just turned into them sending memes and other people's stories to me and whatnot. And I will never, ever, so I actually hate this. I hate when people send things to me with no comment. And then, so why are you sending this to me? I don't know. Even a simple, I thought this was interesting, it would be better than just sending it to me with no comment. But it's become sending memes about smutty books and whatnot. And I'm not judging anybody. You're allowed to read yours. She calls it PWP, without plot. I don't even know. Can I say PORN on stream? Is it going to get muted? I don't know, but you're allowed to read that. You can read whatever you like. I'm glad you're reading. It doesn't interest me because I like to be, I either like to learn something or I like to be entertained, but that doesn't really entertain me. But when did book club now become just sending smutty memes to each other? That I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not reading these books. I have no interest in this. I'm amused by it, but I have no interest in it. But yeah, it's just an example of how difficult it's become to have conversations when the standard is just, oh, let's just send memes to each other without context. I can't even have a conversation anymore. I can't even tell you my own commentary or whatnot. Also, how does this mic sound compared to last week? Can someone tell me if it sounds better than the little lapel mic or not? Because I can always move it. I think that our loneliness crisis should really be connected to our inability to communicate properly. Maybe there can be workshops and classes to teach people how to combat loneliness through good communication. That is something that I actually wanted to do on my website. I wanted to set up group classes that were open to like maybe 6 people at a time, in which we'd get together every week. And it would be a little bit of, in the beginning, I'd tell them a little bit about, okay, here's the ways in which we communicate. And then we could spend the rest of the class time talking to each other and taking turns listening and whatnot. And I would love to do something. You know what I've dreamed about? If I was rich, I would totally open up like a social club where it's just like it's a place to go hang out. So you could bring your family there. There could be a room for the kids, and they'd have like a game console in there. I wouldn't have like, any computers or tablet charging stations. Like if you go in there, it would be under, hey, let's take a break from our smartphones for a second and let's just talk to each other. Like that's where you would go as an adult. It's not a bar. You don't have to be inebriated to meet people. It's not like a loud music or concert venue. It's just, you can go there and hang out and that's that. That's what I would do. I'd set up like a nice, cool social club. But again, it is very difficult to teach people how to communicate when I can't guarantee the people around you are acting the way you deserve to have them act. It's hard. Again, we can be the most polite and proper and thoughtful, but if the people around us are not even willing to meet us halfway, then what can you do? You can stream. So I've wanted to stream more and do things like this where I talk about topics that kind of just are on my mind, because I've loved the commentary here. As you guys have shown me, this is something that a lot of us out there deal with and think about too, and struggle with and have frustrations with. But like, how are we supposed to meet people? We should just have our own little club online. Yeah, so that's kind of like what I want to start doing, is more conversational things, just to show people things can be different. We don't have to, I feel so out of my element with how things are online now, as I don't really like the term content creator. I feel that's so not descriptive of what I do, because I'm not really, it's not a profession for me, right? It's a hobby. But when I went to Twitch's stream manager, because I was playing around, by the way, under ads, I know you can turn them off completely, but I do make some money on Twitch. It's not a lot, but I'll take whatever. I'll take some of that Jeff Bezos money, okay? I'll take some of that ad money. But I moved it down to the lowest option that they had. And so someone can tell me it's supposed to be like a 30-second ad every hour. That is the lowest possible option they could have done. So hopefully it's that. And if it's not, I will fix it, but it should be that, if anyone can verify. A very angry badger says, hi Kite, did you used to have a YouTube channel about communication and social skills? I remember that from a few years ago, but I can't recall the name. I did. It was called Socializing with Sarah, I think. Socializing Smarter. I did. I put up some videos where I had like some PowerPoints talking about, it was kind of some basic stuff, right? The foundational things of how to talk to people. But as I have come to learn, I can equip a client of mine with all the skills, and unfortunately, I just cannot control the environment around them to make sure that they get good results. And so when I tell people to go out and meet people, like, where are you supposed to do this as an adult? I like to tell people, join a local activity group that's like for a hobby group, right? And so like either they have like art classes, pottery classes, cooking classes, or even, you know, a self-defense group, something where unfortunately, like everything is kind of surrounded around, you know, there's a ticket price to go somewhere now because nothing is free. But that's kind of been what I tell people, is to find like little niche groups of where you might have an interest or be able to either just, you know, practice talking to people. But yeah, I did have a social skills channel. I also wanted to talk about, and this is kind of back on the topic of how much things have changed today. So there's this song called Anything Goes, and it was written in 1934 by Cole Porter. And you might have heard the Frank Sinatra version. That's the more popular one. But the lyrics, I want to read the lyrics because I found them to be so, they're so poignant for today. Okay. And it's very hard to read this without wanting to sing it, so I'm just going to have to read it. In olden days, a glimpse of stalking was looked on as something shocking, but now, God knows, anything goes. Good authors, too, who once knew better words, now only use four-letter words, writing prose. Anything goes. And the sentiment of good authors, too, who once knew better words, now only use four-letter words. This was in 1934. 1934, when I would say people still spoke on average very eloquently. If you look at any kind of primary source from that time period, like a journal or a letter that was written by a layperson, not even someone that would be very educated, as just a basis, there was just more of an importance put on the way you spoke and communicated back in 1934. And even then, Cole Porter was making jokes about good authors who once knew better words and now only use four-letter words. I really want to know what author he was talking about, by the way, in 1934. But this whole sentiment of how this decline in... so that song is kind of just poking fun at, you know, at the time period when, so the Roaring 20s, everyone, it's very, very synonymous with like the flappers and the lifted skirts and the bobbed hair and pushing against those not like, not morality, the styles. Someone in the chat, you guys are smart, you'll tell me, but pushing against that sort of laced up, very proper Victorian Gilded Age type stuffy thing, you know, letting loose and having these formless dresses and whatnot. That was seen as like a morality crisis, right? So yeah, I just thought like, how funny, because in 1934, Cole Porter wrote this song, A Glimpse of Stalking was seen as something shocking, but now anything goes. And Frank Sinatra sang that song, same thing, kind of like, times have changed. It's still a very relevant song today. Yeah, like authors who once knew better words now only use four-letter words. But again, this is a sort of conversation in which me saying these sort of things doesn't really, it wouldn't resonate with a lot of people, right? Except some of you lovely people out there. Logic Fan says, definite opening statements is a sign of black and white mentality. It's psychological defense that some people throw up because they're worried about being corrected. Yeah, that's a really good point. People are afraid of being corrected. We take things so personally, defensively. I know I can be a very, very defensive person. And unfortunately, my mother could be very, she could be very critical of me. And so and I see it with my brother too, where we both have a defensive guard very quickly, like, wait, why would you say that? What do you mean I'm doing something wrong? And I try to be mindful of it, and it's just something that as an adult I have to be mindful of. Me not being defensive when someone says something. And it's funny, when Flex and I used to stream, someone would say something critical or whatever on the stream. They'd say, oh, you're playing the game wrong. Oh, she can't even play or whatnot. And I would read the comment, but I'd address it. I'd say, oh, wow, you know, Big Jim 35 says you're playing the game like a pro. Thank you, Big Jim 35. I would falsify their negative statement. I'd turn around and I'd make it positive. And that was a way in which I addressed it wasn't even criticism, it was just unkind, you know, positive criticism. If someone were to say, oh, Kaitels, your mic actually sounds very muffled. Would you mind changing it? I don't think that's criticism, that's feedback, and I encourage feedback. Please, please tell me if my mic sounds muffled. I want to hear that sort of stuff. But yeah, so I'm not talking about feedback. I'm talking about when people are just mean. And I don't really think criticism is not the right word. What is the word for it when someone's just out the door negative toward you? I don't know. So a sly magpie, hello. Evening, just joined and no rerolls either. Where are you at? Here in Sweden, the municipality here have a lot of free activities for people, and then there's many groups that have free events, and they have a place to let people try for free before paying for membership. Of course, in Sweden, that sounds lovely. So I love the idea of the Europe in my head is very picturesque. And I went to French few years ago, and it was very picturesque. We went to Strasbourg, Lyon, and I love French. I'm a Francophile, but yeah, that sounds so cute and charming. My idea of Sweden is that's totally on par. And I think, and I don't want to make this broad statement, Europe is a big place, it's very diverse, but I feel like Europeans have a much healthier, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you're European, but I feel like my perception of Europeans is there is a much higher emphasis placed on well-being that isn't from a health perspective. So mental well-being or just feeling supported as a person. So there's not this focus on, oh, make sure you're eating your fruits and vegetables. It's not like that kind of well-being, not health-wise, but emotionally. That's it. That's what I was looking for. There's more of an emphasis on emotional well-being. But also, when I was over there, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but in France, everyone was fit. Everyone was so thin and walking everywhere, and I didn't really see. And so America has a 33% rate of obesity, and that was last year. I'm not sure if it's gone up or whatnot, but we have notoriously poor food options here in America, and we have very sedentary lifestyles. We don't have public transit, and the majority of the country outside of major cities, you have to drive everywhere. We don't have buses. We don't have trains. We don't have pedestrian walkways. It's very far. If I wanted to go to the store, it's like a 15-minute walk, and I can't always do that because of the rain and the weather, and it's just not facilitated well. So all of this kind of contributes to sedentary lifestyle. But yeah, so I just have this very idyllic view of Europeans, you guys just seem so much happier and healthy and well-rounded, and so that's kind of on point. The little municipality centers, I like that. Logic fan, gaslighting the trolls. Yeah, that's exactly the way I combat getting negativities, gaslighting the trolls. Oh, thank you for saying I'm the most well-spoken and eloquent person you've ever met. Thank you. Either that, or I'll just straight up block, because I don't really think I need to at all spend any time. And this is a policy that I've had. If I spend time replying to somebody or addressing them, I want to spend it on people who are thoughtful, who took the time to articulate what they meant in a beneficial way. Not even beneficial, just in a nice, polite way. I don't need people praising me. I really don't. You know how some people definitely fish for compliments. I don't really, I appreciate compliments, very sweet when someone, oh, you look nice today, thank you. I try and compliment people as much as I can too. When I'm out and about, it really can make someone's day. Oh, I love your dress. I need to start complimenting men more though, because I did read something that was really sad. Maybe some of the guys out there can tell me that some men said they could remember a compliment they got years ago because it was the only one they got. That makes me so sad. And I do think that, so the loneliness epidemic, I think it's, I don't know if it is the loneliness epidemic or they specifically call it the male loneliness epidemic because of just the way that men are not really encouraged to, what am I trying to say? The expectations for men to behave a certain way, whether it's, oh, they have to be very masculine or they have to be very aloof and kind of, you know, standoffish, or if you act a certain way, it's not appropriate. That makes me so sad because, you know, I was talking to my best friend. We went to a concert together, and she was saying how she didn't see any guys that were there on their own hanging out. Like the girls could call each other, hey, you want to go out to this concert? But would a guy ever do that because he feels that he can't or he wouldn't feel comfortable doing that? It makes me so sad because there is this, why is that? You know? Why is that the precedent for men not being able to just call each other up and, hey, you want to go to a concert together? It doesn't have to be weird. I don't know. That just makes me sad. So. And I tend to, the majority of my friends are male. And I had a video on my channel years ago where I talked about this because this was a thing, this expression called, right, this phenomenon, whatnot, not like the other girls, where a woman she'd have some sort of sense of pride. I'm not like the other girls. Or this whole bragging, all of my friends are men, I get along better with men, that sort of sentiment. Now, the funny thing is, I do have a lot of male friends, but I think it's just because my main hobby, which is video games, is still very predominantly male-oriented, right? And so that's just how it's been. Like the friends that I know online, I've known some of you guys for like 10 years. And I still don't really have a lot of female friends actually that play games at all. I don't think any of my female friends play video games. I've tried to get them into them, but it's just not their thing, and that's totally fine. I don't need to push my hobby on anybody. Oh, you gotta try this game. You gotta give it a chance. Nope, I've made some suggestions in the past. They don't have any interest. That's totally, totally fine. We have plenty of other things to talk about. I don't need to share every single hobby with some of my friends, but I'm just saying that is why the majority of my friends are men, is because the majority of the people I play games with are men. My brother, and growing up I was always a tomboy. Very, very much. In middle school, I had this Spider-Man t-shirt. It was like my favorite t-shirt. I got it at Islands of Adventure in Orlando. And so I was always like a tomboy growing up. And so just always kind of naturally gravitated towards having male friendships because there was just more of them available in my hobby, right? So sometimes I hate talking about the whole male friendship or, this discussion of, oh, I'm not like other girls because that's kind of what it turns into. People make this perception like, oh yeah, she's one of those, like, I'm definitely not that kind of person. But me being friends with, the majority of my friends are men, I do see this as an issue. And I think because they do have a female friend in the friend circle, I'm usually the one that they'll go to when they want advice on something or they want to talk about something. And I like having that role in which someone trusts me enough or feels comfortable with me enough. But I always think, would they do this to another friend in our group? Would they do it to a male friend in the group? And I don't know, I just think that there's something very, when it comes to knowing a woman in your life, it's easy to be a little bit more at ease. And so that's kind of what I want to foster when I do streams like this and whatnot. I just want to make it, easy to listen to me and easy for you to share your opinions without any kind of judgment whatsoever, kind of like a therapist. Neurotic says, I wish we could have gone to the same school, although I was extremely shy and anxious as a teen. I was too, Neurotic. I was too, but I was very, very well loved. Even though I was very shy, I was very well loved because I was always nice to people, and we would have been great friends. We can still be great friends now. It's not too late. There's this movie. Oh, I want to go through my movie collection the same way I did my records. I have a bunch of old Criterion Collection movies, but there's this movie, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, and there's this great line that Bette Davis says to Joan Crawford. You mean all this time we could have been friends? I love that line. It's so good. That movie is amazing. I have a movie review of that, by the way. You know what I would love to do? And I know I'll probably get in trouble for it. Well, I don't know. Are you allowed to watch things on Twitch, like an old movie together? Or would that automatically get shut down? That'd probably get shut down. That doesn't seem like something Twitch is allowed to do. I remember those videos, like the watch-alongs, they used to be very popular on YouTube, and I was always kind of jealous, how people were able to do that without getting copyright claimed. But I think times have changed. I don't think you're allowed to do that anymore. You can watch other people's stuff, though. You can watch another YouTuber stuff and have no problem. Anyway, a Sly Magpie says, also men need to get better at talking feelings and mental illness openly. I never did before I started having panic attacks and finally got help. I decided to be an open book since then. Yeah, that is... I want to go back to Blockrocker's comment after that, but that is something that people need to be much better about, is talking about their feelings openly, and especially with men too, because of what I said earlier. There's this expectation for men to be very guarded or solitary, and they're not supposed to be emotional. And this is such a terrible precedent to set. Is there's something wrong with being emotional, or men shouldn't cry, whatever kind of really gross crying is your body's response to releasing cortisol. You actually release when you cry. It is a biological, healthy response, okay? Why would your body be capable of doing this? That would be if someone's oh, don't go, I don't know, don't blow your nose. Don't blow your nose. A real lady wouldn't blow your nose. What? You're supposed to be able to expel mucus out of your nose. You are also allowed to cry. This is a biological thing that our bodies are meant to do to relieve stress. And so last week, Flex beat Death Stranding 2. And I was doing laundry, I'm walking back and forth, I look over him, he's just crying. I went over to the couch and gave him a hug. I didn't know what he was crying about. I'm sure when I play that game, I will be sobbing, but he was really, really upset about the game. Well, in a good way. He said it was just very sad. And so I was just hugging him. I was like, it's okay to be sad. You cry away. But I do know people who are very, and I've seen people criticize, I don't like to see men crying and whatnot, which is a very, very, I am worried for you if you don't like to see people crying. And yeah, some, there are some people who just, it doesn't matter, man or woman, they just don't like to see people get emotional, or, oh, but that's a you problem. That's a you problem. You shouldn't have a problem with seeing someone just cry, not wailing and sobbing and throwing a fit. I'm not talking about that. Let's not go to extremes. Just regular crying, tears. If that makes you so uncomfortable, I really think that's a you problem. I don't think that has anything to do with the other person. I want to talk about, so Blockrocker says, I never take a woman complimenting me as flirting. I pay them $5 and say, I pay for good lying. I never took it as anything but a compliment. That is another thing too, that who was it? Neurotech, did you say that when society has kind of made us, or the way that social media has made us afraid to have interactions and whatnot? Yeah, that's something I've seen, like, oh, don't smile. And that's kind of a joke, like, don't smile at a guy. He's going to fall in love with you or whatnot because he's so attention-starved, he's going to grab onto that. That's a really, really sad narrative to push as well, right? Because you don't want to make people afraid to compliment just because someone's going to fall head over heels for someone. But yeah, I just need to be better about complimenting people in general, because I think it really, really can turn someone's day around completely. And we should, look for nice ways to be nice to each other. I don't know anything about this person. I'm like, hey, that's a cool shirt. If you see a guy, like, hey, nice hat. I don't know, whatever sounds genuine, even if it's not. Now, you can go overboard. When I teach people how to communicate, I don't actually teach them I don't teach compliments as a form of communication, just because some people can just go haywire from it and you don't want to give them any reason. So I just say, just comment on things that are neutral, just not anything that's going to make someone uncomfortable. Or, not even compliment at all, depending on. It's hard to, I never say, like, don't compliment people in a service industry role, because it might create this precedent in which they're serving you and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, so that is my thing on compliments. So the whole, the loneliness epidemic and having like a venue, and this is my problem with Twitch streaming now. And this gets back into the the stuff that the front page is pushing. A lot of these really popular streams that will ask for monetary compensation. Do you guys remember there was this a few years ago? There was a clip circulating of this Twitch streamer, and she was criticizing her audience. If you don't have $5, why are you watching this stream? You should be out working. If you don't have $5 to support me, if you don't have $5 for my entertainment or whatnot. And she got absolutely just roasted and dragged through the mud. And then she made like an apology video. But that sort of, I'm doing you a service, why are you not paying me? The whole idea of watching someone for entertainment and paying them is it's funny, because one of the earliest forms of entertainment, like where the silent film era came from, a lot of those actors from Golden Age Hollywood started in silent film, started in vaudeville. And vaudeville is just this, the live theater entertainment, spanning all kinds of different acts and stuff like that. Comedians and dancers and singers and whatnot all fall under vaudeville. And I feel like it's a full circle. I'd say like Twitch streaming is very vaudeville, because you're doing something for the entertainment of people with the intention of making money or whatnot. Now for me, I'm not going to say I don't want to make money online. That's a total lie. Can you imagine? Some of these streamers make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like these really gross salaries, being just the lowest form of effort. Lowest form of effort, what makes them a lot of money. Yeah, that would make anyone want to get a piece of that. But I've been on YouTube for like 17 years. I was always really reluctant to even enable streaming on YouTube, because I just felt there was something really off-putting about it. Now I'm just like, oh yeah, my channel's enabled, and I'll enable money wherever I can. I hate sponsorships so much, to the point where I get sponsorships requests for me to do sponsored material, and I'll say no. So if I come across someone that I watch and they do sponsorships, I would just like, I don't watch it. I click off, unfollow, whatever. Because I'm like, if I'm not getting paid to do a stupid sponsorship, I'm certainly not going to sit through someone else doing a sponsorship. Not everything has to be a hustle these days, okay? so not everything has to be just out to grab money, but a lot of these streamers I feel like are very predatory in what they expect from their audience, and a lot of them, like, 30s, and your audience is like young kids, high schoolers and whatnot. I saw this post on Reddit. Some dad had given his son $500 as a Christmas gift, and his son was 16 years old. And he said he spent it on Twitch bits or Twitch currency so he could give it. So your high school son spent $500 that you gave him as a Christmas gift so he could give it to streamers that he likes. And that's so sad because it's so predatory. You should not be, accepting money from kids. For what? So you could write their name on your arm. I don't know who the streamer was or what they got out of it. But it's just so, it's kind of like I said last week, I felt like I needed a brothel token to be participating in Twitch because it's so, why are you selling yourself as a service? And this is it's very, very, very dire, the situation. And this is, okay, I grew up Christian. Let me take a little break to catch up on some of the comments. Blog Rocker says, imagine Charlie Chaplin on Twitch. That would be fantastic. I would tune into that. Or Buster Keaton. Anyone that, just puts that much effort into comedy would be great. Physical comedy. Yeah, but anyway. Narratic says, you have aged extremely well, 17 years, but yeah, your experience and talent from camera shows. Well, thank you, Narratic. I appreciate that. See, that's a nice compliment. The best compliment I ever got was from a homeless man downtown when I worked in my law firm. I was walking across, I was out to lunch or going to the courthouse or something, and this homeless guy turns and he says, top shelved, no dust. Top shelf, no dust. And I was like, wow, that is a fantastic compliment because that is so layered. First, I'm on the top shelf. I'm very sought after. I am the top shelf beverage of choice. No dust. I'm regularly attended to. This top shelf item, no dust. I thought that is so incredibly clever. And I thanked him. I turned and my son had. I said, thank you. That's very sweet of you. Anyway, so this is something in which, back when I said I have this reputation of being a prude among the people who know me, which I feel is so unearned because I'm certainly not. It's hard because there's a line between being very open-minded and what's it called? When you are fully accepting of whatever around you. Maybe just that is just open-mindedness. Open-mindedness without being judgmental. But there's this fine line between, okay, but not everything should be okay. We have to draw the line somewhere. We have to start setting boundaries, right? And so I feel specifically for Twitch, as I sit here on this platform criticizing the way in which they run it, some of the things that they host on Twitch. I remember there was a rule that they said that people could be topless. I think they've now repealed that. But why? Why was that a thing? Does this now do they have to have a curtained section, an over 18 section of Twitch? I don't think I had to click whether I was 18 or not to watch a stream, but even if I did, that's a yes or no. There's no verification there, so you could lie. But why are you hosting adult material on a site where kids are watching people play Roblox? It's just, there's something wrong with that. It doesn't match together, so maybe they need to have their own section, like Twitch After Dark or something, like another sister site where they have adult content on it, and that is more regulated and whatnot. And it's hard to talk about, you just want to regulate things. We have to be able to talk about these things realistically without any kind of you don't get to make a judgment on what my political views are, or what, oh, you're such a judgmental person. I remember I was critical of the streamers that were sitting in hot tubs asking for money, and they'd write your name on their body or whatnot. I made a joke about it, and I said, I don't think that should be on Twitch. That should be on a sister website where it is just adult content, but I don't think that's the sort of thing you should promote on your front page. And someone said, why are you so sex negative? Like, what? How is having some sort of regulation being sex negative? I'm certainly not. But you should be able to say that without having someone come at you. Oh, well, you just want to shut everything down. Why don't we just pull our skirts down again? We're just gotten so hostile in the way that we approach topics that you can't even say something the most innocuous. Hey, maybe we shouldn't have that where there's 14-year-olds. Oh, how dare you say that? So, whatever. It's just something that I guess that's only going to get worse, that kind of, reaction to people. Arsenic says in the UK, that would mean something very different. It would imply a top shelf magazine as an adult only one. Well, I'm glad I'm not in the UK. I'm glad I'm in the US. But I'll stick to, I wonder what the UK equivalent of top shelf no dust would be. What would that be like? Top cigar? No soot? I don't know. Top pipe? What's very popular in the UK? Neotic says, I'll counter that with people can be unapologetically crude and extremely rude and not ashamed of those negative behaviors. They're proud of it. Yes. That's another thing too, is there's this precedent in this whole, this like gotcha culture, shutting people down or being just very crude, like you said. That's seen as being, or when someone is when they are dismissive in a way that is very, very quick. Like if I were to say something, let's say you and I are having an argument about something, and we were watching a TV show. We watched Peaky Blinders, and you said, I hate Peaky Blinders, it's trash. I said, I don't think it's trash. I think it's very well written. Cillian Murphy's fantastic. I really love the cast. I really love the setting. The set is fantastic. I found it really immersive. And you just respond with, K, stay mad. But that is how people, that is the sort of interaction that we see, right? Lol, you sound mad. No, I'm not mad. I'm just explaining my viewpoint. But when that is the way in which it has become popular to counter something for the sake of, look, LMAO, and how is this, where am I supposed to go with that? How is that setting the tone of the conversation? Okay, whatever, I'll roll my eyes, end of conversation. Yeah, stay mad, bro. It's like that, stay mad, bro. What? It's just, it's so frustrating. But it really is annoying as a person who is very, very open-minded and I don't want to control anyone's life. I just want there to be a precedent I want there to be a precedent set for, just what should be no-brainer behavior, right? It shouldn't be some big argument as to whether or not what is appropriate. No, objectively, what is not appropriate is pretty obvious. It's why we have rating systems and whatnot. So yeah, that's just some of my frustrations as someone, just a regular person existing in today's society. Block Rocker says, I never watched Peaky Blinders, but if you like it, no judgment at all. No, I like Peaky Blinders. We just started watching on Netflix. I love Cillian Murphy because he's a great actor. I love him. But I really like well-done period dramas, and that's such like a dirty time period. It's like during the late 1910s, early 1920s. It's just such a grimy time period, and I really fascinated with the portrayal of it, because I always associate like 1920s. I automatically think like, oh, Fitzgerald and the Charleston. I think about like the American 1920s, but I don't think about outside of what 1920s was like over in London. And I was just like, oh, this is fun. I don't know if it's accurate. I'm not taking the show as like a factual basis, but it is fun seeing their depiction of it. It's like, oh, wow, okay. So they had the Roaring '20s over there too? Cool. Oh yeah, I like Peaky Blinders. It's a fun show. Do you have a mod active? Or can you approve my last message? It says it has to be checked. Oh, sorry. How do I do that? I don't know how to do. Oh, I don't know how to approve your message. I can read it though. It's because it had the word sex. I don't understand why people even see nakedness as something sexy for adults. Nakedness doesn't mean arousal. It all depends on the situation and vibe. Just take us Scandinavians and our saunas as an example. We are naked there, but no one thinks of sex. This is a very American thing, right? Because nudity is very, very accepted in other parts of the world, and not a sexual way. It's just a very kind of clinical, normal way, right? Like a nude beach, or like you said, a sauna, or when you go to a museum, everyone's bare-breasted. Look at those gorgeous sculptures. But over here in the U.S., but that has always been, and this is another thing that I'm not an expert on, so I can't really talk about like the morality scare and whatnot, but like the Hays Code was the film rating system that was given to American movies. And so when you hear the term pre-code, it's like a pre-Hays Code film. So it didn't have like the morality, like, oh, you could only show a tiny bit of cleavage, but if you showed too much, your film could get cut, it could get censored. You couldn't show gay relationships on film. So that was like the morality police. So that's like the Hays Code. And so that is something really funny with American media in general. You can have a movie where someone's arm gets blown off, and we're very desensitized to it, but then you have a movie where you see two characters in the throes of arousal, and it's like, oh, don't look. And I know that's like a very American joke. But the way in which nudity is being used in streaming, it's definitely meant for arousal. I don't think it's meant for like a clinical, hey everyone, let's go have someone's public, exam today. No, I don't think it's definitely meant for, it's a peep show. It's just a straight up peep show, that's what it is. It's like a burlesque show. But yeah, that is funny about Americans, is like this whole, like, being uncomfortable with a sex scene, but having no problem with watching a character get guillotined or whatnot. I feel like that's a very American problem. Okay. I know. I have this auto mod on that I don't know what it is. I just have it on. Okay, sorry. These, I have to tell you, the comments that are getting censored is because you typed aroused. That got censored. And PP got censored. So I might have to play around with the auto mod. I don't foresee myself having these conversations. This might be the first and last time we have this kind of conversation. I don't want this to feel like, I don't want this to become the regular. But yeah, I enjoy having these conversations. So this is something that I told Flex I kind of wanted to address, because I just don't like how, my problems with it is not like whatever an adult wants to do is totally fine. You want to spend your money the way you spend it. My problem is the predatory nature in which someone is presenting themselves as a transactional relationship. What effect is that going to have on somebody when there is this foundation for I interact with you, I pay you, you interact with me in this way. That is what I have a problem with. This all goes back to conversation. I don't want that to become the norm for how people get their conversation in their interaction. I got acknowledged. I paid her and she acknowledged me. He called out my name. He called out my name because I paid him. That's what I don't want to be the precedent. And when I say predatory behavior and teaching people how to communicate poorly and teaching them things that's not how real life is, right? You sign out of Twitch and what are you going to go? You're going to go talk to someone, you're going to go pay them, and that becomes like, no, so that's what I mean by when I have a problem with it is we don't know the ways in which this is training people how to be, right? Because we don't have like good examples of behavior. And I certainly think that I'm probably in the minority here as far as like people who are online making content and whatnot. I will say there's some people who, I'm sure in certain spaces, this, like the whole trad wife thing, people that are like, they want to return to the 1950s for different reasons. I just want to return to the 1950s for the fashion and the parties and the get-togethers and the game nights. I don't want, now, we all must be Stepford wives here in the 1950s. No, that's not why I want to return to the 1950s. So I do know there is some content out there that is focused on, well, the loose morals in this country is why everything very, very Christian. Look, I am a Christian. I can talk with an authority on this. This is exactly how my parents and my in-laws talk. Very, well, everything's just gone down the drain. People don't have the way they used to. And the thing about that statement is like, yes, everything has gone down the drain for different reasons. Like food quality has gone down the drain. Oh, I can't go meet anyone my age anymore because there's nowhere for me to go. Like, yeah, things have gone down the drain. Quality of appliances has gone down the drain. Planned obsolescence or whatever. Oh, okay, I can't have the same iPhone for 10 years anymore. It's going to break in 10 years because of some software they're pushing. Although I think didn't France fight Apple on that and they won? I don't know if it's just France, but vive la France. Yeah, Block Rocker. Where his line is flexibly. He's working because, and this is funny, so I will often get asked what I do, and I do coaching with people, like I said, socialwsarah.com. That is the only sponsorship I'll do, my own website. I'll do coaching one-on-one with people. And I also make YouTube videos. But then I leave it at that. I'm like, oh, I don't even think I say I make YouTube videos. I say, I'm a games journalist. I'll say that to people who don't know anything about stuff online, just because I'm like, whatever, it sounds better. But I do think there is a level of not embarrassment or shame, but my main job, I will say, I am a stay-at-home wife. Realistically, that is like my main thing that I do every day. Clean the entire house, do all of the chores, I handle the house. I'm the household manager. Maybe that's a better term for it. I handle the household. I do all the errands, I set the appointments. I take care of the yard, I do all the yard work. I do everything in here, okay? But I do think because I don't want to be associated with that whole trad wife movement, that I'm like, not like that. But I do think there's this level of like embarrassment that I have about it. Just because people, how am I supposed to say that in a way that doesn't sound so like privileged and stuck up? It is I do feel very privileged. My main job is just doing what I like, and I really like cleaning. And my mom, I'm half Thai. My mom was very, very much a clean freak growing up, like constantly cleaning the floors. We had air purifiers and dehumidifiers running all the time because she didn't like the humidity in the house. And there was no dust anywhere. The floors were clean. The floors were as clean as our dinnerware. I lived in a very clean, sanitary home to the point where now as an adult, I vacuum the floors like, it might be a little bit of a problem. I vacuum the floors like once a day, and then I run my robot vacuum just because like the floors have to be clean because that's what I'm used to. But yeah, so I like cleaning. I like taking care of things, and it is really, really time consuming too, especially like if you cook. You know, cooking is just such a process. You have to get all the preparation, you have to get the actual process of cooking, the cleaning up, everything like that. But I do have somewhat of, I think there's like this reservation, me saying, just flat out saying it, so I try and make myself like, let me make myself seem a little bit more, you know, not to say there's absolutely nothing embarrassing or shameful about being a housewife. I know that used to be like the standard, you know, and I think too, like though, wouldn't it be great though if, and maybe it doesn't even have to be the wife, if I had a job where I was making enough to support a household and the husband wanted to stay home and do everything, I feel like that everything would be happier, right? Because it's like, oh, there is no like, you know, one person, everything's done. By the time you come out of work, everything's clean, everything's nice, it stays nice, whatever. You don't have to make any appointments, you don't have to meet with the people coming out to the house, like it's all taken care of. One person handles all of that stuff and the other person just does the traditional job. But that is something that a lot of people, I've seen certain talking points where they're like, why don't we bring that back? That would be great. Why don't we bring back single income households? And I have to say, yeah, I think that would be great because then people could spend more time with their kids and their families and be less stressed. And if you took people out of the workplace, you could pay the people that are in there more. I don't know enough about this. I don't want to get into a discussion about economy because I'm not that well knowledgeable about it. This is just me talking about my own personal situation and whatnot and what I see. But yeah, that would be fantastic. People got paid more. You used to be able to like, you know, you'd see these advertisements of the way things used to be priced and whatnot. A Sly Magpie says cooking is fun. Cooking, I actually really, really enjoy cooking just because it's so rewarding and I feel like I eat better when I cook too versus going out. And as someone who I can get really bored of eating. I feel when I cook my own food, I enjoy eating it more. So it's a beneficial arrangement. Arsenic says, if I could be a stay-at-home husband, I would never hire a person to come fix your lighting. I'll just learn these skills to do it myself. Exactly, Arsenic. That is what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be a stay-at-home husband or wife, like it's just a stay-at-home person. If one person was there to attend everything. So I actually remodeled my bathroom. I took up all the tile myself. I took out the toilet and sink. I mean, he helped me carry it, but I learned how to do the plumbing. I learned how to skim coat the walls. So I replastered the walls, which was the most intensive project because it was just so messy. But I learned how to do everything myself. I redid it. And then I was like, I want to do the bedroom next. So I did the same thing in the bedroom, replastered the entirety of the bedroom and whatnot, replaced the window hangings and took them off and patched up the drywall, everything like that. So yeah, I enjoy being the house manager, which is like, I guess the modern take of it that doesn't have like the political, whatever, what's it called? The suggestion of it being like a political thing, because I hate saying like, oh, I'm a stay-at-home wife, and everyone thinks, oh, okay, so you also don't think people should, whatever. Don't give me any kind of agenda, because I am not at all like that. I just objectively think people might be happier if there was like one person to manage all the household stuff, and nothing would slip through the cracks that way, right? When you have one person that's responsible, like tomorrow I'm meeting with 2 different tree surgeons for a couple of different trees I have. And I like to be in the know-how about that. And I feel like that is a very, very classic, like the women used to balance the checkbook. They handled everything. And so going back to this book from the 1950s, this is not like a gender rolled book in here. They don't teach things. Well, there is a section in here for what a woman does on a date versus what a man can do on a date. And it's basically just like, be courteous, be polite. Here's how, just sweet stuff like that. But it's not like specific gender rolled things. But this is another hot issue, right? Like you can't really talk about stuff without people getting their defenses up, like, okay, wait, what are you gonna say? So yeah, this has been really nice. I was not at all intending to talk about any of this because I make it a little, also, I hope you guys cannot hear my stomach growling. If you can, let me know. My stomach is growling. This is time for my midday snack. The house commander. I like that. I like that role. My mom was a house commander as well as her own side things. This is something important. My mom taught me that. Yeah, I like that. That's kind of what I am doing because I do have my YouTube videos in which are very, very, they can be really, really just like tedious to make. And my meetings with people, which of course, hours at a time, that is a job too. So yeah, it's kind of block rocker. Your mom and I are doing the same kind of thing. Household manager and also like doing our own little thing on the side. Arsenic says connotation is the word you're after. Thank you. Connotation, that was it. This is why it's nice talking to live people because you know what I'm thinking. We're in a situation to get more free time as we're currently in the AI revolution is just taking all of us workers getting together and demand some same pay for less work. AI does that now. Instead of the owners taking the money away from the efficiency and firing people like in the industrial digital revolution. Yeah, AI is something that is just, we talked about this last stream where I talked about where is the future, where is this really cute little retro futuristic society we were promised by the Jetsons? Where are our flying cars and our robot maids? But no, we just have AI sweeping in and taking jobs from programmers and developers. I had a conversation with a friend who is a programmer and developer, and he told me that in his workplace, they have these signs that say, work at your own risk, in that we will be taking your work and we will be feeding it to our aggregators and our compilers and our own machine so that it can learn how to do your job and eventually replace you. Work at your own risk. We are stealing your work with the whole intent of firing you one day. And he told me how much this stressed him out, and I thought, and as someone, I recently got into voice acting after 10 years of putting it off. After being on YouTube all those years ago and people saying, oh, you have such a great voice. You should get into voice acting. You love doing character skits and whatnot. So I finally made the effort I met with a coach. I did the training. I have a demo reel. And wouldn't you know it, it's now more difficult because not only does everyone have a mic, we are now also competing with AI voices. Someone sent me something of an AI clip that they had used because they fed it my YouTube channel. And I just thought, wow, that's great. That's great. AI is now coming after the creatives. So the voice actors and the artists, did you guys see the thing where I forget, I don't know who, it was ChatGPT, there was a Studio Ghibli AI thing going around. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is like the antithesis of what Miyazaki would want his art to be used for. Just, it's so incredibly ironic that you would do it to this particular artist, the thoughtfulness of his work. And it's just so frustrating. It's so annoying and frustrating to see the way in which AI has encroached on the creative sphere. I hate everything about it. I'm definitely one of those people that's like, yeah, I don't like AI. I don't like it. I don't like to see it. I don't like to listen to it. I don't like anything about it. No, it's just awful. Okay, I need to check my auto mod because it just, it censored fellow, and I don't know why. And I'm sorry. I keep saying allow. I'll look after this. I'll look into this and find out why it's doing this. Oh, thank you, Block Rockers. I told you for years I had voice actor energy. Yeah, I'm in a commercial. And I've had 4 jobs so far. And unfortunately, because I get so sidetracked, I've stopped auditioning because it was exhausting. I do like 50 auditions, and I'd get shortlisted, and then I'd only get, I'd get a false lead. Hey, are you available this day? No, sorry, we closed it. We went somewhere else. And then I think in the back of my mind, did they just use my audition and then I'm just not getting paid? And then they just closed the posting for it. So yeah, it's hard. It's difficult. I would love to be, and my coach told me, she's like, there's no money in animation, by the way. There's no money in voice work. You have to do commercials. And commercials are so freaking boring. They're so boring, but you do make good money with them. I got paid $800 to do a 30-second ad, and it was in one take. It was the easiest thing ever. So yeah, there is money in commercial voice work, but it is very, very exhausting to do. It's very tiring. And it can be very disheartening as well when you do auditions and you don't know why they didn't select you. You got shortlisted, but you never hear back. And you're like, if I could just have some feedback, that way I could improve on it and know. Yeah, that would be nice. The commercial is on YouTube, yes. If you want to go look it up, go look up CMP, as in Charlie, Mango, Peter. What is M? What is M in that thing? I know it's not Mango. I know it's Charlie. What is it? Is it Madre? It might be Madre. Yeah, look up CMP, Energy Solutions, commercial. And it's like a 30-second ad, but you can hear, I'm like, here at CMP, we take our energy reports really seriously. It's very, very, I showed it to several people. They're like, that's not you. That doesn't sound like you. I'm like, yes, it is. That's my professional voice. I'm also on another commercial for a dog training school where I play a golden retriever puppy, and that one was fun. It's like, here at Dogs Inc., we teach puppies how to be the best. It was like a very, very cutesy little golden retriever voice. Miles, November. Oh, can you post a link, Arsenic? I don't know if I actually have links allowed, because I remember one time I was streaming on Twitch and we were getting like, it was just like Pornhub links spammed. I don't know what was going on. It was getting like flamed, so I had to turn off links. Unicomics, hi! So Unicomics, everyone, he actually made me my avatar that I use on my Twitch and my YouTube, because no one else has ever made me a better avatar. Like, I love your artwork so much, Unicomics. I feel like that's just like the most accurate depiction. I just love it. I would love to do my own radio drama. That would be so much fun, like in the old days with the little folly sound effects and whatnot. Is your professional voice like how store clerks have a customer service voice? No, I would say, so let me try and put my professional voice on. I'm trying to think of picking up the phones at my law firm. Let me think. Hi, you've reached Moon and Bradley. Thank you for calling us. We're closed at the moment, but if you'd like to leave a message, our attorneys will give you a call back when they can. I'd say that was like my professional voice. I don't know how much different that sounds from my voice right now. Sometimes I feel when I talk to myself, I can get kind of when I talk on my own and I don't have anyone else to talk to, I get very, not monotone. I'm certainly not a monotone person. I can get very, can you see her? You can see her tail. You can't see her right here. I don't fluctuate. So my voice gets very same tone, right? I'm just like, this is it, right? The level. But when I talk to Flex or someone else, I get very excited, and you can hear like the fluctuation in my voice depending on my energy, or when I change emotions or whatnot. But yeah, when I talk to myself, this is just kind of how I talk. You ever read that quote before, those quotes? This is one of my favorite quotes by Hayao Miyazaki. Another is, I do believe in the power of story. I believe that stories have an important role to play in the formation of human beings, that they can stimulate, amaze, and inspire their listeners. That is so on par with him. I saw a great documentary with him called, I don't want to say, is it called I think it was called Kingdom of Madness. Someone please fact check me on that. Because if it's not, that kind of sounds like, I know there's a book by, what's his name? Who's that one? This is the only, who's that racist guy that makes those sci-fi, you guys know who I'm talking about? The Bloodborne guy. What is that? What's his name? Why can't I think of it? He does Lovecraft, thank you. I hate calling him that racist guy that does sci-fi, but you knew exactly who I was talking about. Lovecraft. I feel like In the Mines of Madness was a Lovecraft novel. Now, I've never read Lovecraft. Actually, no, I read one Lovecraft novel, the one with the fish people. Innsmouth? Yeah, thank you, Blockrocker. Yeah, he is. That's an accurate depiction of him. He's that racist guy that did sci-fi. I just think it's really funny how that, you knew who I was talking about. In the Mines of Madness, I feel like that is a Lovecraft novel, so I'm not going to actively look it up. But Arsenic says, I've read a couple, and it's like he hasn't gotten an editor, which is strange because he wouldn't let anyone edit his work. Okay, speaking of didn't have an editor, Arsenic, we tried to do a month in which we read a different Edgar Allan Poe. We read like a different Edgar Allan Poe. Some of us rose to that challenge and absolutely read a different Edgar Allan Poe story every day. But others of us realized that, my version of Edgar Allan Poe is not accurate. I imagined him as being some very, very, the original emo boy, right? When we think of Edgar Allan Poe, the raven, the telltale heart, the dark circles, the tormented soul, I live alone in a castle, and this very just like stereotypical Edgar Allan Poe. I mean, what a cool guy, just the idea of him. But I had never read his writing beyond the telltale heart and what's the one with the raven? So when we actually had to sit down and read some Edgar Allan Poe, I thought, oh my gosh, this guy can ramble. And this is coming from someone who rambles, okay? But this guy really just doesn't have any kind of filter. He just talks and talks and talks and talks and talks. And it's not in a way that was like engaging. It was like, okay, I get it. We're going up the staircase. Please tell me more about the bricks. Okay, please tell me more about the pattern on the detective's coat. It was just sort of stuff that wasn't like, I didn't find that engaging. So that's Edgar Allan Poe. Why did I talk about that? Oh, because we were talking about Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, blah. I forget. Anyway. I don't know why these messages of yours keep... Oh, it's because you wrote virginity. The original emo goth is Mary Shelley. She apparently even lost her virginity on her mother's grave. Is that true? Do we want to say that? Is that some Mary Shelley, is this some fabrication going on, dragging that woman's name through the mud? That's that's crazy, if that's true. Some of his work is kind of off there, very hit and miss. So we're not going to be doing Edgar Allan Poe for book club. I wanted to actually read The Great Gatsby because I am very fascinated with the Fitzgeralds. And Scott and Zelda Fitzgerald, them as a couple, I was very fascinated in their life. I've only read one book by Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby. I loved that book. I spent a lot of time we read it for high school, and we spent a lot of time dissecting the cover of that book, like what the illustration meant and the green light and the significance of everything. And but I'm more so interested in the Fitzgeralds as a couple because they were just so, I mean, what a tumultuous, really messed up relationship. So Scott and Zelda Fitzgerald had a really rocky marriage all throughout their relationship, and poor Zelda actually died in a mental institution where she was committed, and there was problems with infidelity and jealousy, and the way that Zelda said that Scott had taken her diary and her personal writings, and he had changed the words and tweaked it and published it as his own, so basically just like plagiarized her own writings and her own life. And then when he encouraged her to write her own book, it didn't do well. And so I find the whole relationship between them really, really messy. And I think that is why I have this like fascination with them, is more so of a sort of voyeuristic gawking at how messy their life was, you know, a train wreck kind of thing. But I really don't know him very well as an author. I know his personal life very well, but I'm not really familiar with his work because I've only read one. And then his relationship with Ernest Hemingway, and you know, the whole expat. I just find the whole time period very interesting and fascinating from a reality. Ernest Hemingway is another one. I've not read a single book by Ernest Hemingway, but I have great interest in his life as a person. And I find it very, very just heartbreaking how his family seemed to have a curse with depression and suicide. But yeah, so I can tend to like fixate on the real life author without being that familiar with their work. When I say, oh, I love Fitzgerald, well, I'm fascinated with his life, not necessarily his work. So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just more so like in this stage in my life where I'm into biographies more so than I am into literature. But maybe we could do like a stream and we could change that. Please do read Ernest. Yeah, I should. Give me a good Ernest Hemingway novel to read. Okay, I have to go through. It keeps blocking the word virginity, which is, why is that on the block list? I don't understand. Is that not appropriate to talk about? So I guess you answered my question from earlier. I have a question, Holly Go Kitely, for your book club. Are you thinking about current books or classic novels like The Great Gatsby? That's funny. Yeah, I did answer that. I was thinking of public domain books so that I could read them on stream and not have anything go awry with it. Although it's funny, last stream we did the record stream where I played music, and on the playback on Twitch, one song was blocked. It was Windmills of Your Mind. I figured it out. That was blocked. But on YouTube, I uploaded the stream for posterity, and it had 9 copyright claims on it, or copyright content found. It didn't impact the video. It didn't mute it, or it didn't hide it, so you can still watch it. But I found it funny how they have different. Twitch, one song got found. Out of all the songs I played, it got muted. On YouTube, 9 songs got found. So they're clearly not, Amazon and Google are not using the same system for finding music, which I found really funny. So Twitch might be safer to do stuff on because maybe they don't have the same copyright software that Google uses. It seems a little less intense than Google's. Arsenic says he published 4 novels, 4 story collections, and 164 short stories. I do not know how he did so much. Well, Miss Sarah, is this our next December author? I think so. I think we should do it. Let's do it. And we are talking about who? Fitzgerald or Hemingway? Probably Fitzgerald, right? Yeah, that's who you're talking about. I'm totally on for it. I want to become more, and this is in the discussion of, we keep reading headlines, people are more illiterate today than ever before, which I can see that happening. I feel like as a whole, we are much more illiterate. We are much more poorly spoken. We don't write we don't write anymore. There's no composition, right? Going back to this book where they're talking about letters and how thoughtful, there isn't any of this. Hey, y'all want to meet up? That's definitely a downgrade in communication. But when that's the standard, how are you supposed to compete with it? I haven't told you, like, I can't interact with people in my own social group on outside of my gaming friends. I feel like you got, like, this is really, really quality conversation, and I value this so much, and I feel everything here has been, I'm gonna have to go back and read the comments on the replay because I've missed so much of it, but everything from what I can see has just been so thought-provoking, and this is one thing I do feel a little snobby about. I feel like I tend to have luck in meeting or attracting interaction from really quality people. And so I've always felt very lucky in that regard. Like, wow, the people who interact with me are much higher value than the people that interact with you. When I see people interact the way that they talk, I don't see any of that on my streams. Everyone is very well spoken. And so that is how I'm snobby. I feel I take great pride. I feel very lucky that I have more thoughtful comments. It's not just like spamming emojis or spamming phrases or whatnot. Neurotix says, I do too, Kite. I miss intelligent conversation. I do. Do you have a Discord for further discussion outside of streams? So, Sly Magpie, let me talk about Discord for a moment, because Discord is a great way to, outside communication. Like when I have game nights and whatnot, when we watch movies, we do it over Discord. Unfortunately, I have had some really, really bad experiences, especially recently, a few months ago. There was someone I knew, and I don't know why, I still don't know why, she took private messages of mine that I had confided in her, and she, without asking me, without my consent or approval, she spammed them around to people in a way that was meant to humiliate me. And I was so repulsed by her behavior, and I thought, wow, I never ever want to have to go through something this stupid, juvenile, and childish again. And so I said, I'm not going to trust anybody anymore. So unfortunately, I have had some really bad experiences through Discord, to the point where, unfortunately, I just don't feel like comfortable having, a group anymore, because I just, that was a crazy experience, having my trust betrayed to that extent, which I had never, ever gone through anything like that in my entire life, my entire 30-something years of life, gone through that kind of harassment by someone I thought I knew very, very, very well. I thought I knew this person, and she also doxed me. And so, I do have my suspicions as to why this person did this, and I think it's because she was trying to impress somebody. But yeah, so long story short, I'm a little leery right now to have like a group, just because I've like closed down. I'm like, okay, trust nobody anymore. So sorry, I don't have a Discord, but I do hope to be more interactive here and talk and facilitate communication. I would like to, ideally it would be so cool, like I said, to have like a little group where we could have like-minded people who are just like, hey, chum, it's okay that we don't agree. Let's turn on the dance music, have that kind of environment. But it's just, I feel like it's hard online. And being a community manager is also very exhausting as well. Like there's a lot of, everyone comes to you with, hey, can you intervene here? Hey, someone said something, I want you. It's very exhausting. So if I did have any kind of space, I'd have to hire you as a community manager. And then you have to vet them. Are they being fair? It's a lot. That's a long way of saying it's a lot. Oh yeah, that person's, it was awful. Block Arcus, this explains so much. It's very valid for you to feel that way about Twitch. Yeah, it was terrible. And it was all over a man. Can you believe that? Crazy. Men can make ladies do stupid things. That's always been the case. Isn't there an expression, you're not supposed to do that? I know the equivalent for men is bros before hoes. So it should be like hoes before bros. But hey, whatever. Doxing especially sucks, even though most people don't care. There are always ways and risks of the occasional crazy person. Yes, there are. Yes. And unfortunately, I hate how you can have a bad experience with someone and it kind of does make you, it makes you leery of putting yourself out there again or getting too close to someone. But I mean, that's just human nature, right? That is the way in which we adapt to situations like, hey, I had a bad experience. It's now made an impact on me. From an evolutionary standpoint, that way I can avoid going through that pain again, right? That it's how we are supposed to adapt. I'm not at all conscious of anyone in here being that kind of person, but it does make you think. You're like, okay, I just want to make sure I have my bases crossed. So unfortunately, I don't have any way to communicate outside of Twitch, but I do want to start having conversations like this more, just because this is nice, and it's really comforting for me to see so many people around the world too just have the same kind of frustrations with how bad we have become at communication and how we don't prioritize having conversations in a meaningful way anymore. And I just really don't like this whole debate gotcha culture. I have to make a fool out of someone. I have to do a takedown. Do you remember on YouTube, it's become a meme where it's like, oh, so-and-so destroyed with facts and logic. And that's become a meme, the whole destroyed with facts and logic. Destroyed? We shouldn't be aiming at approaching a conversation or a situation where we have to destroy the opponent. That was like when Flex and I were talking about this video game. I didn't want to destroy his base, that I didn't want to even convert him to my own opinion. We were just having a conversation. I don't need to convert anyone to my own opinion about something. I'm certainly okay with someone if someone said out, hey, how do you listen to Frank Sinatra? This guy's such a, he goes on and on. He's got that sappy voice. I just say, well, more Sinatra for me. I don't need, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. Let me tell you in the ways in which you're wrong. I'm going to sit you down and make you listen to Frank Sinatra until you love him. No, if you don't like him, that's that's fine. That's your prerogative. I don't need to convert you over to my side and turn you into a Sinatra fan, you know? But it just seems like there's this whole idea that we can't get along with someone unless they agree with us in every single way, and that's become the precedent, and I don't like that whatsoever. Maybe an alternative to Twitch can be done for book club. Oh yeah, I mean, what I was thinking for book club is I just grab the book and I just read a section, you can read your section, and we just talk about it, you know? You know, I'm gonna read a little bit more from this book because I want to talk about, listen to this. This is The Ideal Date, okay? 1954, The Ideal Date. And in parentheses, it says, boy, here's a checklist for daters. See how you measure up. The Ideal Date asks for a date at least a few days before an informal affair, 2 weeks to a month before a formal dance. Is well-groomed and appropriately dressed for the occasion. Is courteous and sincere. No line, please. Never deserts his date for another girl. Doesn't talk about other dates to the girl he's with. Is a good listener as well as a good talker. Doesn't act loud and boisterous. Doesn't swear. Respects his date's abilities and opinions. Knows girls aren't all fluff. Has a sense of humor. Can take no for an answer. That's so cute. And I feel like that's such good advice for today. All of this is relevant. Like this has not aged at all, this book. If you want to read this book, this is not sponsored. This is the book. It's not sponsored. Anyway, Kite Tales with Kite Tales. Oh, I like that. That's a cute name. Like a live audiobook. That more so than you reading as a bedtime story. Yes, that's exactly it, Arsenic. That's what I'm thinking. I read a passage and we talk about it, or I read a chapter and we talk about it. I have auditioned to do some audiobooks, but no bite. So yeah, maybe I'll just do that myself on the stream. But yeah, our possibility to communicate has improved so much since 50 years ago, but at the same time, the quality of communication has decreased equally. See, that's the thing. Like, no one here that I'm interacting with, would we ever have the ability to cross paths without technology in the way things are today. And for that, I'm so grateful for it. But it's just the quality that I'm lacking, the quality that I'm desiring. I'd like to see a little bit more quality in conversation. And yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about today. Just conversation and what has really happened to the way that we communicate. I want to thank you all so much. I don't know what book we're reading for, by the way. It is, but no one acts like that. I'm laughing because my cynicism. I don't know what that's in reference to, but I'm guessing you're commenting about the way that this is still relevant. Yeah, no one acts like that, right? We're all very boisterous. There's a section in here about your role as a party hostess. Maybe I'll do that for one of the streams, and we'll have like an old-fashioned, I wish I could do a call-in where I could have people call in, but I don't know how that works. I'm not techie enough to do that. We did that once. This is an idea I told Flex. So on the streams that we used to do, it was called Friday Night Live. We started on Twitch, or we started on YouTube, we did on Twitch, and then I found the Twitch crowd was not at all the same caliber as the YouTube crowd, so then we went back to YouTube. But I had found someone on Reddit. He was a German, he was young, I think, he was still in high school. He was a German kid that he had pet cockroaches, and I was so fascinated by this. He had a time-lapse video. He stapled a piece of bread to a log, and his pet roaches just devoured every single crumb. And so I reached out and said, hey, can I interview you for a live stream? And so that it is on my channel, on my YouTube channel. We interviewed him, and he was showing off his roaches, and we were asking questions about it. And then we had him back. I think we had him back like a couple years later to do a follow-up. And it's remarkable. He's a bug scientist, so he was studying the reproductive qualities of centipedes because there was something to be unlocked specifically with the reproductiveness of centipedes or whatnot. And I thought, I should follow up with him. What a cool person. But I told Flex, I said, wouldn't it be cool if we did a live stream where we would have regular people, like just normal he's not a celebrity or anything like that. He's not a published author. He's just someone with a hobby. We could have regular people interviewed every now and then. Like, wouldn't you guys want to, what if we interviewed a master plumber and we asked him questions about his job? Hey, what's your worst story? What's the worst toilet that you've ever worked on? He would have some stories. It would be very entertaining. And so it could be like a regular person talk show where we just highlight regular people, not celebrities. It's not going to be like a podcast where we have, the manager of UFC on or whatever the podcasters are going for these days. It'd just be like a regular person podcast. Yeah, that was an idea I floated past him. But I don't know the logistics of how we would go about finding the people or the setup for that. But does that sound entertaining? Because if it is, we'll look into it. But if this is only appealing to me, then I'm not going to spend the time. There's no other options besides Discord to use. Yeah, I think Discord would be the only option for that, either Discord or Google Meets or something like that, where we'd talk to them. But yeah. Oh yeah, get a call screener. It would be a disaster. Yeah, I'd have to vet people before I had them on the show, because I could see that going really poorly. I've got a Dash German call with Ika. Oh, been wonderful as always, Arsenic. Thank you, Arsenic. I've got to go too. I have to go take care of the dogs, get back to my household management stuff. But yeah, thank you so much for all of your lovely conversation, and I really, really do value it. I appreciate it. I feel enriched. I felt comfortable enough to talk about things here that I was like, I'm not going to get into that because it's too heated. I'll have to scroll back and see what people were saying while I was on my little tirade about Twitch and whatnot, but I've really valued this. Thank you so much for everyone who has tuned in and interacted with me, and I would love to have more conversations. If there's any topics that you would like to hear about, let me know. I wanted to talk about, what did I want to talk about next time? I have conversation I wanted to also talk about some more, this isn't necessarily like a fun conversation. I don't want every single time I do one of these little fireside chats, I don't want them to be too serious. Although there's absolutely nothing wrong with being serious. The world's a very serious place, but I want to have some fun sometime too. I wanted to talk about like the appeal of the 90s, and maybe just talk about like 90s media and stuff, because again, that's when I grew up during that time period, and just kind of like nostalgia as a thing that affects us. But yeah, I think I will be streaming again tonight with Flex, and that will be a more fun show. That will be talking about movies and video games and whatnot. So this was more serious discussion, but I really enjoyed it. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you either later tonight, or I'll see you again sometime later on for another one of these chats. And I'll think about too what books we could maybe read for book club, or maybe I'll get some from the library and then we'll all decide together. I think that's the most egalitarian thing to do, is like making the decision live. So I'll do that. I will work on that. That'll be my homework. And I'll see you next time. So yeah, bye everyone. Take care.